And here we are at the beginning of the end. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we're here with my blind reaction to episodes 1 through 4 of Season 10 of Adventure Time. The final season begins. Mind you, we do still have Distant Lands and Fiona and Cake and everything, but of the main series, the final season begins. And it's so crazy and wild to think that we're here. Because it's been like a decade since I started reacting to Adventure Time originally. So for those of you who don't know, and only see like on this channel starting at like season 6, I started Adventure Time back on old channels, old accounts that have since been unfairly terminated by YouTube. And I started reacting originally in about 2015, 2016, something around that. It's been about a decade. And there was obviously a big long break in there where I had initially dropped the series for one reason or another and had to come back to it years later, but it was one of those things that I had been reacting to for a long time, and now I'm finally going to finish. It's crazy to think about it, too, because this series originally began airing in, like, 2010. So I was already late to the game when I started it. And now, all these years later, like, well over a decade after it first aired, we're finally finishing the series. And like I said, my old channel and accounts and everything got terminated, and I think it was actually because of Adventure Time, interestingly enough. I had a couple back on the old channels. I was putting up some of the videos for a time on the channel, right? I had some reactions that I would like put up on the channel rather than pull them to a different website. And that was, I believe, what ended up getting me getting my channel taken down. Because at the time, if I'm remembering right, I either privated them or I had taken them down. But at the time, it was like YouTube had done this thing where it's like even if you delete them, they're technically still on your account and you can still get flagged for them. And so even though I had begun redirecting everything at that point, those old videos were still being flagged and stuff. And the weird thing is they were fine for years. But then suddenly they started getting, I just got like a bunch of copyright strikes, like one after the other. And it's like they had the 3 strike you're out policy. So it's like basically, oh, I just woke up one day and everything's gone. Well, fuck. And I tried to appeal. I tried to get things taken care of. But, you know, that entire system is done through bots. And so, like, trying to actually get to a real person and then having them, like, figure anything out, it was just an absolute crapshoot in the first place. And it just never amounted to anything. It just didn't amount to anything, and it was stupid because I was, like, you know, still abiding by fair use. Because I believe the ones that were on the channel were cut down. You know how, like, most reactors do it, where they cut them down to a degree. I don't think I was posting the full reactions to the channel because of, you know, copyright issues. even then. But even then, it's like it was still within fair use either way. And so, yeah, it's interesting to have started reacting to this series like a decade ago. This series more than likely being a big part of my downfall of my original channels and accounts. And now, in 2025, finally finishing this. Finally, like, ending this series. It's just wild to me. It's just crazy. And I don't know where I would be without, like, shows like this. Because, like, obviously I've talked about how My Little Pony Friendship is Magic was kind of a big gateway show for me and allowed me to check out a lot of other shows. But this was one of the first other shows I checked out that in turn also acted as a gateway to other ones. I think after MLP, I think a couple of the first shows I ever checked out, I want to say, were Adventure Time, Steven Universe, and Star Versus. I think those were like big ones for the, like, when I really started to branch out. And I don't even, like, remember how much of them I did on the old channels compared to how much I did here. Because, like, if I look back on it, like, let me look back on it real quick. I know these pre-thoughts are going to end up probably being a little long, but bear with me. Because I feel like this is kind of a big deal with this being such a big series and with it being, like, having been so long for my reactions. I feel like it's worth looking into real quick here. So if I look on my channel here, my first Adventure Time reaction on this channel was Adventure Time Season 6, Episodes 3 and 4. I did that, and I did Episodes 5 through 8, and then I took a break from the series. I stopped reacting to Adventure Time after that until... Let me see here. Trying to find... I did a couple reviews for a couple episodes at that time. But I actually came back to actually continue reacting like 3 years ago, this says, with episode 13 of Season 6, which was in October of 2021. So it was between March of 2018 is when I did my last reaction before that. 18... So 3 years. 3 years between episodes, or between reactions for Adventure Time at that point. And then I started reacting to it more consistently. I've been doing, like, season by season occasionally with breaks in between and everything. And like I said, now we're here at season 10. But, like, I'll look up other things here. Ignore her. Like, if I look up Steven Universe, the first Steven Universe video I have on here is episodes 13 through 16 of season 5. So the first 4 and so many episodes of season 5 were on the old channels. And then as for Star Versus, I don't know if I have them under the full title, but let me check. No, it looks like I do. Star Versus was season 3, episode 15. So the first 2 seasons, and then, like, the first, I guess, more than half of season 3 was on the old channels as well. But those were shows that, like I said, kind of acted as gateways to me. Adventure Time, Star Versus, and Steven Universe really helped spread my interests and spread my investments in other shows. and are the reasons why I eventually got into stuff like Owl House, Amphibia, and so much more. Um, Ghost and Molly McGee in terms of other current stuff. Big City Greens, which we're also reacting to. And it's just it's crazy and wild to now be at this point where we're actually going to finish the main series. And again, there's spin-offs and stuff. Apparently there's a movie that's going to be happening in the future. There's all this stuff that it keeps going because Adventure Time is like so iconic at this point. It's one of the most influential cartoons out there. And so we're going to start seeing some like bigger things coming in the future with these other shows. Adventure Time keeps going. It has multiple video games. It's just this giant success. And this is the start of the final season. And I'm a bit sad, I won't lie. It sucks to see this end, but we'll still have content to get through. Like I said, we're going to finish out this season, and then we're going to take a break. We'll come back for Distant Lands in the future. I think Distant Lands is only like a few like episodes long, but I think the episodes might be double length. It's like kind of like a few specials in a way. Sort of like the last season of the Owl House in terms of that kind of thing. And then I believe Fiona and Cake is a full like season, like a full season. And I believe it has a second season coming soon or something. Now I've also been like told, and I think I mentioned this last time as well. There is a Minecraft special episode that was released during the course of season 10. On the channel or on the site I'm getting these from, it is actually in the episode order right before the finale of season 10, right before the 4-episode finale. Or it might be more than 4 episodes, but you know what I mean. So I'm going to get to it at that point. We're going to get through the rest of the episodes of season 10, then we'll react to that, and then the finale of season 10. That's what that's the order we're going to go with, because that's what is just shown on the episode order for the site I used anyway. So it just works out that way. But we have 4 episodes today. I don't know anything about them. I don't know what they're called. 4 just felt like a good number to start with for the season. So let's get to it and see what these episodes have in store for us. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. Holy shit. Like, season 10 has come out swinging. 3 out of the 4 episodes involve Gumbald and is clearly very important. The other one, maybe not as much. The other episode is just kind of there. I'm just trying to get up the episode title, so I have them all here. But it wasn't like a bad episode, and definitely I wouldn't say was super unimportant. It definitely was important for character growth and all, and we'll get to that. But like with the end of last season, I like, who is this guy and everything, and now we find out like pretty quickly here. It just, I feel like this is like really big. And I don't know how this season... I kind of know to some small degree how this season ends. I don't know the exact specifications, but I've talked about before how there's certain elements of the finale that I do know. There's certain things that it's just were like everywhere on social media when they came out. And so it's like, yeah, I've heard things and I know certain parts about it, but I don't know like all the context and every little bit of information here. So I'm not going to like mention anything specific, and obviously don't spoil me. But yeah, let's talk about these episodes in order. So first we have the Wild Hunt. So Finn and Jake are basically called in to deal with this creature. I forgot exactly what they called it, but this creature that looks like kind of banana like. It looks like a sloth almost, but not at the same time in terms of its body shape. And it is going after and eating banana guards. Finn and Jake fight it, but Finn is having a hard time landing a finishing blow because of his trauma from Fern. And so eventually, after Jake is just kind of left laying there dead tired, Finn has to go and try to chase it down, and eventually ends up teaming up with Huntress Wizard, who joins in the hunt for obvious reasons. And eventually Finn is able to deal with his trauma enough to be able to take it down. He ends up like placing Fern's his vision of Fern's face on Huntress Wizard instead, allowing him to be able to take out the beast. And at the end it's revealed that the creature was sent by Uncle Gumbald, and it was created from artificial candy flesh in order to act as an antagonist, specifically towards the likes of Princess Bubblegum and Finn and Jake and all. And it's really good that we get that continuation of the Fern stuff as well as the Uncle Gumbald stuff right away. It doesn't hold back. It doesn't like wait to delve into that, because with season 10 it's like having a shorter amount of episodes than previous seasons and everything. And apparently it was because the network wanted to stretch it into 10 seasons, so the last season was technically split into 2, but still. I think it was the last. I think it was the last 3 seasons that were technically split up oddly, and started and ended at weird points, from what I was told. But either way, we see Gumbald here, plotting and everything. And it's a really interesting way to like build him up more after the like sudden appearance at the end of season 9. And with the episode dealing with the fallout of season 9 and Fern's death and everything, it's going to be interesting to see what Gumbald does with Fern, because we know he has Fern. Meanwhile, we have the second episode here, Always BMO Closing. This one, BMO is teaming up with the Ice King to basically two-person in a trench coat act as a salesman, going around selling just random junk. And it surprisingly seems to be profitable enough. Like, they end up going to tree trunks and end up getting a big wad of cash. And then they eventually find this pyramid. And there's a sentinel there, the mysterious sentinel that lets them in, and they end up coming in contact with Uncle Gumbald, who is revealed to, we start to learn more about him here. And once he hears that the satin bag that BMO has Finn's baby teeth in it, he perks right up, which is very concerning right away, just instantly concerning. And he does agree to give a silver goblet in exchange. So we then see it comes to a head at the end of the episode when the baby Finn's made from Finn's baby teeth, which is crazy, come in and attack. But thanks to the hammers that BMO has, they're able to destroy them. So another plan is foiled. But we see that Gumbald is still watching and still trying to figure everything out. And then we get Son of Rat Bear. This is the only one that doesn't seem to be related to the rest of the episodes. This one is basically just about Phoebe entering this rap contest, accidentally signing herself to enter it to face Son of Rat Bear with her kingdom on the line. And although Toronto clearly has it completely staged against her, she goes out and adventures a little bit with Finn to try gain experience for her rap game, and she does end up winning, mostly because she ends up rapping about her dad and people like it, and it ends up just winning everyone over. So she even though Toronto tries to declare Son of Rat Bear the winner, even Son of Rat Bear doesn't believe he won, and no one else believes that he won, so in the end, she wins. We delved into her connection with her father in this, and seeing how her father just is not good. Like, he's not as evil as he used to be, but he's still, selfish and just not willing to admit his faults and everything. And we see how she utilizes that for her raps and everything. It's a good character moment to show that, this is not really going to change. But she's finding her own way and becoming her own monarch for the Fire Kingdom. And it seems like it's kind of also confirming her and Cinnamon Bun as a couple, which is kind of cute, honestly. Unexpected a little bit, but cute. I think there were hints of that before, but it's I think this really is the first episode that kind of confirms the idea of it. I'm not against it by any means. It's just, yeah, it's there. Yeah, it's a good character episode, but it feels maybe a little out of place with the rest of the episodes, and that's just because it doesn't touch on the main thing, the main focus that we've gotten with the rest of these. It's kind of separated from the story, and I almost feel like it should have been the first episode of the season. I know it's not as interesting and impactful as the Wild Hunt was, but I feel like having that before the main story stuff really gets started would have at least been a little better than interrupting the main story stuff for it. But maybe that's just me. But then we get into episode 4, which is Bonnabelle Bubblegum, obviously named after Bonnie. And this is a super fucking important episode that gives us huge lore that we just didn't have before. So we find out that when Bonnie was super young, 800 years ago, because again, we know Bonnie has been around for a long, long fucking time. She and Nettie were living together and just kind of scavenging, just kind of surviving. And Bonnie ended up finding a photo of some people who lived in the pre-war era. One of which looks like Gumbald. Or I guess Gumbald looks like him, technically. Bonnie forms the idea to then create family for her and Nettie. Family who are more like her. Who can, just take over in a way. And so she creates 3. She creates Aunt Lolly, Uncle Gumbald, and cousin, oh my god, what is his name? Chiclay, cousin Chiclay. Which I have to think, his name is inspired by chiclets, right? Those little square gum things. The little square gum candies, chiclets. That's gotta be where his name comes from. And Chiclay was so aggressively voiced by Tom Kenny. It was so obvious. But anyway, we see at first it seems like it's going to go pretty well. but it's made apparent very quickly that Gumbald is starting to like kind of take control. Bonnie like wanted them there because she wanted a family to just spend time with, to hang out with. We even see when she creates the Butterscotch Lake later on that she did it so Uncle Gumbald could go fishing and enjoy the lake and stuff like that. Just, live. But we see after the fact that Gumbald had started to like have delusions of grandeur, we'll say. He started to want more and wanted to have control. He saw Bonnie as a problem. He saw her as someone who was holding them back from basically being able to be something bigger. He felt that they could have power, they could have control, they could have, destiny manifested in their likeness and everything. He even like created this family crest with his face on it, and just completely started to take over. And she ends up like trying to confront him over this, and he starts to get rid of her by creating Mr. Cream Puff, who he forces Bonnie to go on a date with. And we know Bonnie and Mr. Cream Puff used to date. That was mentioned in the very first episode of the series. And so, like, we're actually getting the context behind that. But we see that after she comes back from her date, she ends up noticing them in the basement plotting. And she sees that Uncle Gumbald has kind of led the others as well into like plotting against Bonnie and trying to form this plan to turn her docile and simple-minded in order to take over and, become a bigger deal, basically. However, he turns on Aunt Lolly and Cousin Chicle and ends up poisoning them with the serum that turns them into simple things. Cousin Chicle is Crunchy, or Princess Crunchy, as he's sometimes been known, who we've seen at various points has even ruled the Candy Kingdom, interestingly enough. Has like worked with the King of Ooh and then turned on the King of Ooh and tried to usurp the King of Ooh, and I think succeeded. And was eventually usurped himself by Bubblegum. And we also see that Aunt Lolly becomes Manfred the Pinata, who has been there since I think Crunchy's been there since pretty much the beginning too, but Manfred we've seen since the very first episode. And now we find out the truth that Manfred is really Aunt Lolly this entire time. And it's like just, oh. and then she uses the pea shooter she found and breaks the vial that Gumbald is holding, and it gets all over him. And we find out that he had been the Punch Bowl. And again, we've seen the Punch Bowl before too. We have seen all three of these characters. And to find out this entire time that they've been Bonnie's family is wild. And I don't necessarily think this was planned from the very start. This was probably like figured out at some point, like maybe halfway through the series, that they wanted to do something like this, or maybe started having ideas about it. If this was planned from the very beginning, Pendleton Ward is a genius. But I'm not saying that he's not a genius, but I don't think it was. I think this is something that was figured out later down the line. As for how much later, I don't know, but either way, that it's insane as a twist. It's such an insane twist and recontextualizes everything. And I after I stopped the reaction, I think I figured something out. And I might be entirely wrong. I almost don't want to say it because I'm afraid I'm wrong. But it makes sense, right? Like, when LSP restored everything from the state that it was in elements, right? Because LSP is the anti-elemental. When she restored everything back to how it was before, we saw that some characters reverted in ways beyond what they were like prior to what Patience had done, such as even oh, what's his name, Sweet Pea. Sweet Pea even growing the horn back, and the connection with the Lich kind of being restored, which we saw last season. And I think there was another example or two we saw when that happened, when everything was restored. Um, of things getting restored like further than they had been before, like to a previous state even from before then. Which is really interesting, because what if that's what happened here? Because how else would they have reverted? If LSP's anti-elemental powers reverted things to their original state, that would make sense. And that means also that Uncle Gumbald's not the only one back. That would mean that Aunt Lolly and Cousin Cheekley are back too. That's gotta be it, right? Because otherwise it doesn't make sense how they would have been turned back. Like, unless it was like a temporary thing, but it lasted for like over 800 years, right? So it's like, I don't think it would have been a temporary thing and lasted that long still. That wouldn't make a lot of sense to me. And also, I don't think Gumbald would have made it temporary. That just doesn't feel like something he would have done. But it's really interesting. And we even got the origin in this episode for like the cabin that Bonnie was like living in after like losing her princess title for a bit. Like with the varmints episode. Like we even see the cabin. We see what appears to be the start of the Candy Kingdom. Like all this stuff being like just introduced here and being explained, and it's just like, holy shit. Like, I knew we were going to get into some crazy shit this season. It's like, obviously, like, season 9 kept things going. Season 9, like, really kept things, like, on track. It was very important. Most episodes, if not almost all of them, were consistently important episodes, had consistently important stuff happening. And it looks like, for the most part, season 10 is going to be the same, outside of, like, Son of Rat Bear. It seems like these episodes have all been consistently part of the main story, and this one in particular has, like, delivered so much important detail. This is kind of insane. And Bonnie now knows, because at the end of the episode, we see, like BMO confirms for her that the silver goblet was... that he and Ice King did get it from Gumbald. So Bonnie knows Gumbald is out there. Which means she probably at least has a feeling that Aunt Lolly and Cousin Cheekley are as well. The end of the series, the final season being tied to Bubblegum, is such a perfect choice. Because Bubblegum's been obviously one of the most important characters. And we've already had, like, the Stakes special tying things to Marceline and whatnot. We've had a lot of stuff tying to Ice King. I think having Bubblegum, like, be the kind of clincher here, especially being the Princess of the Candy Kingdom, being one of the main characters, you could say. It's like, this just works on every level. And finding out about these secret, like, relatives she has is so fascinating as well. And you gotta think, after they were turned into, like, not the first, because the first candy person, I guess, was the Swedish Fish, followed by Mr. Cream Puff. But I assume, like, with them being turned into some of the first candy people, this is what led Bonnie to creating the Candy Kingdom and creating all these different candy citizens. Like as she said at the end, it's like call me princess and all. I feel like the reason why Bonnie through a lot of the early series had been like kind of this mad scientist and kind of morally gray, we'll say. I think it was because of this experience. I think it like um she kind of fell into Gumbald's ways because um her family was made from her. It looked like she had like the gum probably gathered from the mother gum, but like she had it connected to her. So it's like each of her family members here outside of Nettie seemed to be almost like taking a part of her mentality and like emphasizing it, like really just like increasing the like focus of it. Gumbald seems to represent Bonnie's scientist nature as well as her there's a word for it. I'm just not thinking of it. Opportunist ideals, I guess is a way to put it. Because Bonnie, or especially in the early seasons, very much had this kind of idea to her. Like she even tried to take over other kingdoms, like the Fire Kingdom and stuff. It's like she had this opportunistic view of things, and she had to get over that. I feel like even like the things like her spying on other people, really creepily was also taken or was also part of what went into Gumbald. And so he's like her worst traits literally personified. Cousin Chicle seems to be kind of her fun-loving, cool side, and Aunt Lolly, from what we can tell, the little bit we see of her, maybe her caring, nurturing side. Because Bonnie definitely has all of these different sides to her. She's a very nuanced character. That's the kind of vibe I'm getting from this. That these three different family members of hers are the like physical personifications of different elements of her own mind. And Gumbald just happens to be the worst of her. He is like the dark side of Princess Bubblegum. And having that be, at least at the for the early parts of season 10, the main villain here is such a brilliant idea. Because it's like Bubblegum's dark side has been a nuisance, again, in the earlier seasons of this series, to the point where she has had to like have notable, extreme character growth. There's still a lot of fans out there who don't like Bubblegum because of the things she did, the way she acted, etc. And these kinds of fans, for some reason, just also seem to ignore her character growth since then. But like they always like talk about how she's spied on people, how she's manipulated and used people, the way she treats her candy citizens, etc. And this is all problems she absolutely had in the earlier seasons, but these are also all problems that she has bettered herself with. She has absolutely gotten over these problems and become a much better person, thanks to the likes of Finn and Jake and Phoebe and Marceline, even Ice King to a small degree. They've all helped her change and become better. Gumbald is not really able to do that. Like, I don't believe he's going to be able to change. Gumbald, like I said, seems to be her worst traits personified. It's literally a physical, living version of her dark side. You're not going to be able to change that because that is his nature. And so maybe we could get Cousin Chicle and Aunt Lolly on our side. That's possible. But I think he's going to be at least one of the main villains of this final season, and is going to have to be either converted into a candy person again or killed. I don't think there's another option here. This is like such a crazy way to open the season, though. This is like so fucking good. Like, I love this series in general, but there's a lot of portions of it that, I'm very, very middle of the fence on. But this is the kind of stuff I love. This is the kind of stuff that I really get into Adventure Time for. This story heavy, just super intense, like dramatic shit is entirely my kind of shit. And it's so well written, it's so well handled. It's just so good. I can't wait to see where this goes, and I want to make very clear here, do not spoil me on anything. Like I said, I know a couple things about the finale, but they're out of context and stuff, and I don't know everything, so just do not spoil me. Do not spoil me on, like, if I'm right or wrong about anything I've guessed. I do not want to know ahead of time. Because I'm sure stuff will be revealed, like how they reverted. I'm sure that's going to be revealed. I'm sure that's going to be talked about. So don't tell me if I was right or wrong with my guess, with my theory. I want to find out for sure as I watch. For one reason, that way I can, like, get excited and gloat about getting it right if I am correct. Or I can get really embarrassed and really sad if I'm wrong. It leads to a good reaction either way, right? This was just really fucking good. This was a very strong start. And I can't wait to see where this goes next week. So thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. Let me know your thoughts on these episodes down below. Once again, no spoilers. Do not spoil me. And for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.